Alright people, what's going on? Space Cowboy here. Welcome back to the channel with another video for you guys today. Before we begin today's video, please make sure to hit this video with a like. You guys have been doing a fantastic job with hitting the like button and all that other stuff, so please make sure to continue to do so. I'm very grateful for that. Also, subscribe if you're new here if you want to get more Dallas Cowboys content from yours truly, because if you're enjoying the content you're watching or have been seeing, why not subscribe so you don't miss out on more content from me? And finally, hit the notification bell to be notified when I go live or post new content. So with all that out of the way, I wanted to continue these discussion-like videos and just me talking to you guys about some trivial topics, because based off the last video with me talking about the 21st century Cowboys teams and who I felt had the best chance of winning a Super Bowl, you guys have been receiving them pretty well. So I want to continue that, because if it's something you guys enjoy and like, I'm going to continue to do it. So with that out of the way, we're talking about Ezekiel Elliott. Now, the main factor we're talking about today is, did the Cowboys make a mistake in paying Ezekiel Elliott? If you don't recall, the Cowboys paid Ezekiel Elliott last year. He was holding out because he wanted to get his money early. The Cowboys, they budged in. They gave him the 6-year, $90 million deal, which had $50 million guaranteed. And, of course, there's the, option years to where the Cowboys can eject him later on. And many people said, you shouldn't be paying a running back all that money because the running back position isn't that valuable. Well, I will say this, there are some concerns. See, for me, if you're asking me as an honest person and an honest interpretation of this entire matter of how I feel about the running back position, for me, if there's a running back that showcases he's elite and puts up elite production year in and year out, I have no issue in a team paying them top dollar, okay? It's for any position, right? If they are an elite player at their position, then by means, pay them, okay? And I understand the running back position is one of the more, meh positions on offense, mainly due to the fact that some people, there are some teams that can do the running back by committee and not have an elite running back and still have good production. But at the same time, there are teams that have elite running backs that sometimes they just don't do well, and usually there's a lot more layers regarding when it comes to that, because it's not just oh, they spent a high pick on a running back when they could have used it on something else. No, because when you look at the situation, right, the Dallas Cowboys, and who knows what's going to happen, but Ezekiel Elliott is with the team because of the success of the 2014 season. If you recall, DeMarco Murray led the league in rushing, Offensive Player of the Year, broke Emmitt Smith's record for most rushing yards in a season, did all that, and, the Cowboys wanted to try and re-emulate that, and that's why Zeke's on the team, okay, for the most part. And when he was coming out of the draft, and when he was coming through that process, a lot of people compared to him to being the next Adrian Peterson, Edgar and James, because they played, they had a similar play style. And some people might say, okay, you can't win with an elite running back, or you can't use a top 10 pick on a running back. Now, here's the thing, right? For me, if you're asking me as objective as possible, yes, you shouldn't spend a top 5 pick or a top 10 pick on a running back if there are other needs the team needs to address, right? But my thing is, right, is when people talk about Jalen Ramsey and oh, the Cowboys should have taken Jalen Ramsey, you can make the same argument about cornerback with running back, right? You can get a cornerback later on in the draft. You don't have to spend a top 5 pick on a cornerback, right? It's just, I've seen this argument, and it's some people say, well, you should spend it on a corner but not a running back. But it's you could say the same thing, because cornerback is another in a position where you spend a top 5 pick on a cornerback. Now, again, that's not me saying you shouldn't do that. Me personally, if you can get a guy that's going to be at the top of their position for 5 to 10 years in a window with that pick, by all means take him. And Ezekiel Elliott has been just that ever since he stepped into the league, okay? He's led the league in rushing ever since he stepped into the league. I believe I could be wrong on this, and I think Todd Gurley has him beat, but I think he's close to having the most touchdowns scored by a running back in the league, both receiving and rushing. But that's not the point I'm trying to get at here. The point I'm trying to get at is you got a guy that's durable, that's going to last you some time, and he's that next generation. He was that next generation Adrian Peterson coming out of college, and as soon as he got drafted by the Cowboys, everyone wants to be and it's come on, man, they want to come up with excuses, you know what I mean? So before I go any further, I decided I wanted to look at how Zeke is progressing compared to other elite running backs from the 2000s and 2010s to see where I think he could possibly end up. Now, before I begin, I want to first say who I decide, and I'll show you on screen. I'll just do some editing once this video is, finished recording. So I decided to go with Ezekiel Elliott, Frank Gore, Edgerrin James, LaShawn McCoy, Adrian Peterson, LaDainian Tomlinson. The 5 other running backs other than Zeke are on the all-decades teams for the 2000s and the 2010s, okay? So, first things first is to note how many games each of them played. If you look at how many games each of them played, as you can see, Ezekiel Elliott has played the 5th most, or I guess that you could say like the 5th most games out of the other ones. LaDainian has 63, Adrian 61, Frank Gore 59, 58 for LaShawn, and then you have Zeke at 56 and Edgerrin James at 52, okay? Now, what's key about this is because it's going to affect the numbers and more so where they look at in terms of that kind of numbers. Now, we go to the amount of attempts, and if you look at the amount of attempts, Ezekiel Elliott is 4th on this list, okay? And yes, he would be a lot higher if he played in more games, so there's that. I guess more importantly, yardage, okay? Well, Zeke's 3rd, okay? Zeke has played has the 5th least or 5th most amount of games played amongst these guys, and he has the 3rd most yardage, and I guarantee you, and this might be a stretch, if he had played the 2 final games of 2016 and 2018, and he got his yardage there, assuming that he did well. And also, if he didn't get suspended 6 games, I guarantee you he's much higher on this list. I think he has like about 6,000, like near 6,000 yards. I think he has that kind of amount of yardage. But more importantly, yards per attempt, right? I think everyone here can agree that yards per attempt is extremely important. And Zeke, he's in the same ballpark as the other ones. He's just a couple points behind LT as well as Frank Gore, and he's in the same ballpark as LaShawn McCoy. I mean, you look at these numbers, and I should correct myself because he's actually has better numbers than LT when it comes to yards per attempt. He has better numbers than Edgerrin James and LaShawn McCoy. Well, LaShawn McCoy and him share the same numbers, and then Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson are higher than him by a bit. So when I'm looking at these numbers, it really goes to show you that Ezekiel Elliott has had the elite level production as his predecessors when it comes to them being the best at where they're at, okay? And then you look at touchdowns. Zeke's 3rd. You look at this. Obviously, Adrian Peterson and LT have had much better success in the red zone and them giving the ball to them a bunch. And the fact of the matter is that I think touchdowns is the most important part because that's you putting points on the scoreboard. And the fact that Zeke has 40, he's averaging 10 touchdowns a season when he's played the 5th most games out of this entire list. That's crazy when you think about it. And, assuming he scores a touchdown, like, let's say he scores like 5 more touchdowns. He's just barely there, And then you look at the receiving game. Zeke, when you look at his numbers, he has the 3rd most receiving yards, and he's tied for the 2nd most touchdown receptions. Now, when it comes to yards per reception, which is another key statistic because it's showing how much of your effectiveness, Zeke is 2nd when it comes to yards per reception as well. Okay, when you look at all these numbers and statistics and stuff like that, and I should also mention, out of the bunch, he has the longest reception in terms of yardage, and also that was a touchdown. Even though that might not matter to some people. You might be saying, Space, why in the hell are you talking about this? Why are you Because the point I'm trying to get at is the Cowboys have an elite level running back that has a possible chance of going to Canton if all things work out and he continues the trajectory he's on. He's on trajectory, assuming he plays. If he plays as long as Adrian Peterson and he continues averaging the numbers that he's currently averaging, I bet you that he could possibly have a shot at being one of the top leading rushers in NFL history. He's on pace to do so. Do I think he's going to break Emmett's record? Probably not. But if he has the same productivity as Emmett did, which he's had so far, and if he continues his trajectory, like I keep saying, because that is the key point I'm trying to get at here. Zeke is on pace to go to Canton. Whatever people may say. People might say he's slow. Some people say he's overweight. Some people say, yes, it would be cool to see Zeke back in 2016 form. But the fact of the matter is, I think Zeke, as he is right now, is built for the long haul. And that's what we need in him, right? If you want elite level production from him, you shouldn't want him to just go for the short term, okay, we're going to run him into the ground because he's fast and all this other stuff. Because... and again, we don't know. Me personally, I like the way Zeke is as a running back. He knows how to punish defenses. He's looking for contact. And with all that in mind, I do believe that if you continue to use Zeke more effectively, you can lower his carries, increase his effectiveness on offense. He's definitely going to make this the whole offense, if it's more effective, he's going to extend his career, continue to get elite level numbers. And the key thing is, he shouldn't have to lead the league in rushing for us to win championships. He just needs to be a factor on offense to help negate certain other factors so that, if they try to stop Zeke, well, guess what? The passing game is going to open up. And that's a huge factor when it comes to Ezekiel Elliott. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. Now, that's very key here because when as I was doing my own research, I was kind of like, Zeke does have a lot. I even looked at the playoff totals. Now, I will say, Zeke has played in 3 playoff games thus far. Same with Adrian Peterson, Edgar, and James up to this point with the other bunch of them. Zeke has the most yardage out of them. Does not have the most touchdowns because that goes to Adrian Peterson. And it does not have the most receptions or yards and receiving because all of them don't have a receiving touchdown. But, again... oh, and I should also point out, did you know that Ezekiel Elliott averages about 100 yards a game in terms of the playoffs, which is actually crazy when you think about it. But with all that in mind, up to this point, Ezekiel Elliott has been one of the, if not best, running back in football. He is the most well-established. He showed over the past 4 years that he has elite-level production, and I think he's going to continue that. I think Zeke, with this new offense, will see a much increased higher sense of numbers, because if the Cowboys are putting a lot of points up on the scoreboard earlier in the game, you could see him being used more effectively. If the offensive line is playing at a higher level, I can definitely see Zeke playing at a higher level. But overall, and I guess to kind of gist it, no, the Cowboys did not make a mistake in paying Ezekiel Elliott. That would be like saying that all these other teams made a mistake in keeping these elite level running backs around, because at the end of the day, if you have an elite player at a certain position, it's going to help you on offense or defense, right? Because you can say the same thing about cornerback, you could say the same thing about some other positions. Look, yes, you can go get production from another running back, but the fact of the matter is that if you have someone that can change the way an opposing defense looks at your offense, that's huge. And I definitely think that the Cowboys have that in Zeke, and I'm not making this stuff up when it comes to the statistics don't lie, man. And I know they don't tell the whole story either, because guess what? Many of these other running backs were on teams that did not win championships. None of them won championships, should I keep in mind you. But the fact of the matter is that Ezekiel Elliott, while he's not won a championship yet, he does play a factor in the Cowboys' Super Bowl window, because he adds another element to the offense that many people, I think, might forget, especially if we go, pass heavy. So, we don't know how he's going to look like under Mike McCarthy. He might be more effective. He might have less carries. And that's for me. I want him to be effective. I don't want to force feed him the ball just to give him league rushing titles, because at the end of the day, rushing titles tend to not win you championships, but you know what wins you championships? Effective play on all sides of the ball. So, I think I've gone on for long enough. Again, I want to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. Do you think the Cowboys made a mistake in paying Zeke? I don't think so. You guys disagree with me? By all means, put it in the comment section below. I'll be looking at them. And without further ado, before I end this video, again, if you haven't already, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and hit the notification bell to be notified when I post new content. Alright guys, I'm out. Peace.